Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TED Talks Ball. I've got a UK edition with Paul Hope of 49ers Faithful UK. Always a great guest. Super happy to have him on. We're going to chop up some 49ers today. But you can find him at Paul_Hope10, the number 10, and at 49er Faithful UK. And let me go ahead and put together your banner so we can see that. Also, Paul, probably should have mentioned to this off air, but if you wanted to set up the stream to the 49ers Faithful UK, you can. If you want to take a few minutes to do that, I don't know if you want to do it on air. You're certainly welcome to. We could just take a little break and wait for you to come back. Totally up to you, because I don't want to hog you all to my channel. So
no, it's all good for tonight. But I have noticed that button in the top corner, and I thought I hadn't seen that before. That looks interesting. So maybe for next time, I'll have to get clearance off El Presidente before I start sharing stuff to the
there you go. Yeah. That makes sense. I don't know. He may not trust me, although he did send me the flag, and he did send me the link for this visor when we were on streaming together. I was mourning, crying to him that 49ers visors are so hard to find. But I think I was maybe just looking at the wrong time, and that I was looking in season. And they all sell out during the season, but in the off season, like now, there's a few going around. I was showing you off stage or backstage. It started. I had a white one and a black one that I've been wearing, Niners ones, and then I found this one that I liked that has the Fort Saloon font on the bill. And then Lee recommended this one, and I got it, and that just kind of got me hooked. And so I also have this Niner Faithful one that I wore yesterday and the day before. So switching it up, trying some new stuff. But appreciate you being here. I got some audience members. I'm going to skip one that was negative towards the top. We have a Lance hater, shall we say? Oh, what the hell? I'm going to put it up. He came in, he gave it, so he thinks I'm a loser. But hey, Flav, thanks for stopping by and supporting the show. We appreciate it. And then we got Bryant Culp saying, hey, Ted and Paul Hope. Thanks, Bryant. Everybody make sure you check out Bryant's channel. He just hit 100 subs, growing fast, doing good stuff, doing a lot of weekend coffee shows and some cool stuff. So his wife, Tony, does some cool stuff, too, with some female panel shows and stuff like that. So make sure you check out both the Culps. He even said, hey, Flav, good to see you. Bebop Jones in the house saying Ted and Paul Hope. Thanks, Bebop, coming to us from the Philly area. And Tommy Huxley, always complimentary. That's good, but weeds. And Bebop say noise. And Flav, what a clown. Yeah. Everybody has their role. I think he knows he's a troll, a Lance-hating troll, and he plays the role well. So what are you going to do? But as far as our show here today, we got, it's funny. It's off season, but I'm finding there's a lot of stuff to talk about, even though it's the off season. I had Beto on yesterday. We did a 2.5-hour show. I had Rod Callie on today. It was about 1 hour and 40 minutes. Interesting stuff going on in Ireland. And of course, if we get a chance and, we're feeling able and willing, I don't think we've talked much about draft. Did we talk about last time you came on, or I'm trying to remember? I should have checked.
A little bit. It's a compliment because I've been on that many times with you, Ted. We've talked that much Niners. So, but no, I know what you're saying. My good lady says every time before I go into a show at the moment, it's the off season. What are you chaps going to talk about? And I'm like, Tracy, there's always something to talk about with the 49ers. Don't you worry, I tell her. And it's more me that Mr. Gowland doesn't trust, Ted. You're fully trusted. You've got the flag. You're in there. But no, I would check with him before I start going. The channel is kind of his baby. And you have given us some good news. We didn't realize it lowered the sub count to 500. So we've hit the sub count. But we need to hit the hours now, because did you say it was 3,000?
3,000 in the last calendar year, yeah.
So obviously we went live in January, so we've still got a way to go. Everybody who's checked us out, we're very appreciative. Yourself, Brian, big supporters of what we do. So we've actually quietened down a little bit in the 49er Faithful UK. Well, I say we. Lee has. I'm full steam ahead. I'll talk Niners all day long, Ted. You know that. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, you're great, and also I reached out to Nick too. Yesterday, you said you were going to Tenerife next week, and I was like, hey, well, if Paul's gone and you need someone to chat with, like, hit me up, right? So I figure all good, and obviously, full disclosure, I'm not doing anything sneaky or anything like that.
No.
Tenerife is beautiful. I went there with my family back. It was like 94 or 96, one of those even years there, mid 90s. And it was when the World Fair, back when they used to have that, was in Sevilla, Spain. And we went to Spain and then to Tenerife, down in the Canaries. And it was a really pretty island. It was a little different than Hawaii, but tropical, warm, nice beaches, lots of drinking. The weird thing I remember about it that really stuck out to me was the way, like, I went out to dinner with my folks, and I think my sister and I went out to the clubs late night, and I thought it was late night. It was like 8 or 9, and like they're dead, and they didn't start picking up until midnight or 1 a.m. And then they just bumped all the way from like 1 a.m. until like all of a sudden I'm there and the sun's coming up, and I'm like, oh man, I better run home. Literally ran home to jump into bed before my parents woke up and saw I wasn't home yet from going to the bars or the club, whatever they call them down there. But it was a very different timetable. I think it's because of the siesta in the afternoon. Then they eat later, dinner, and then they start partying or clubbing or whatever even later. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, so we don't go for a few weeks, but we've decided to take a week off the 49er Faithful live next week because Nick started a new job, and we were worried, believe it or not, that the content might be drying up. So I don't go until the end of July. So ironically, the first week of training camp, I'll be away. So Nick Ludlam will be free, Ted, on that first week of training camp because I go away with Tracy and the girls the end of July. We come back for a few days, then the girls go away with their dad. So then me and Tracy are going away again to Mallorca. So I'm getting 2 foreign holidays. Obviously with COVID, you couldn't travel. So we've saved it all up. So I'm looking forward to some sun. And like you said, a slower pace of life. I won't be on my phone. I'm going to be stepping away from social media and giving my good lady some undivided attention and non-Niners talk. But I will be rocking the jerseys, Ted. And like you said, I might have to invest in some of those visors because that one you've got on there, Mr. Gowland's found a beauty. We do like that salon font in the UK that you've got on there. It's rather good.
It's definitely cool. No doubt about it. The only thing that would make it better is if the letters were black against the red background. But it's pretty good. I like the gold accents, and it's nice. No doubt about it. So we got Tommy was saying, Flav, call people losers on Last Second Sports and you'll be blocked for warning. I guess Tommy must be a moderator, a mod on Last Second Sports, which is Jesse Naylor's channel. Bryant Content says, content creators undefeated. It's true. Don't mess with content creators. Tommy says, Giants swept the Cards for the first time since 98. Let's go. That's really cool. I know the Giants have been kind of struggling. San Francisco Giants, that is, this season. So good to hear that we swept somebody. That's awesome. Terradome in the house. And what's up, fellas? Maybe Brock Purdy's biggest supporter. I don't know. It's up for debate, but he's up there. He's a huge Brock Purdy stan, and that's great. We need that because a lot of content creators, not that we don't like Brock, but a lot of us like Lance better, and so it's good to have counterpoint. I think always I like a little disagreement can be helpful. Bebop saying my family's from Spain. Well, tell us what part. We flew into Barcelona. No, that's not true. I'd never been to Barcelona till a cruise much later in life. We flew into Madrid, and then we did go to the Costa del Sol, where Barcelona is at the top, but we went further down to a little town called Marbella, which is like a yacht port town. And then there was like some little town up in the hills, and I went to my first ever bullfight there, which now I think are probably frowned upon. Sounds like they're kind of going away. But and then we drove around Gibraltar or near Gibraltar to Sevilla, and that was a beautiful town as well too. That's where the World Fair was, and a lot of cathedrals in Sevilla and churches. And so, yeah, it was a fun trip to Spain. It was a really love sangria. Had a good time for sure. Nice people. Tapas are fun. What's not to like? Let's see. So we got Beto in the house. Hola, Miraza. Thanks, Beto. He came on yesterday. We had a 2.5 hour, really long show. Really fun. Worked out really great. And he's saying, I just accepted the challenge to do pull-ups. Unfortunately, I broke the bar. Oh, he's talking about Grant Cohn did a pull-up challenge for content creators. If you want to disagree, you could do pull-ups. And it's funny, when Beto and I were talking yesterday, we were talking about some fan in Denver doing pull-ups on like a traffic light pole, the upper pole, probably 25 feet in the air, 20 feet up. You did 3 or 4 or 5 pull-ups and then dropped down into the crowd. And apparently everyone was okay. So that was good. But yeah, I don't think I could do many pull-ups right now. I've got strong arms, but my strength to weight ratio is not good right now. I'd have to train. I was training for that not long ago, within the last few years, but haven't been doing that lately for about a couple of years. Pterodome's just giving us a laugh, and we got Nate Doggy. Sorry, Purdy is the truth. Yeah, people say Purdy is the truth. Purdy has the it factor. He definitely does. There's just a lot to like. And they're saying Pterodome's the man, and Niner Sickness Pod. So yeah, so Paul. First of all, with Purdy and Lance, are you more of a Purdy guy? I know you like both, but do you have a preference?
When I was preparing for today, and obviously I've been watching all the content creators, I think people need to bear in mind my 49ers journey started with Alex Smith as QB, but then he didn't last very long. So Kaepernick was my first season. It's been a Niners fan, Ted. I've said that before. Kaepernick was my first love in the NFL. Then we went from Kaepernick to Hoyer to Gabbett to Jimmy G. Now, I was a Jimmy fan. I went all in on the jerseys, like everybody. When he flashed those games, those 5 games, and we gave him the contract, Ted, we all wanted him to be the man. 49ers wanted our franchise quarterback. In 2019, I've been looking back through that season, in the off-season, going back and watching the games. The Saints game is one of my all-time favourite Niners games. It was the UK meet-up in Edinburgh, which is a fantastic city up in Scotland. Arguably Jimmy's best performance. And I think a lot of us held on to that Jimmy performance. And like you said, coming on to tonight, I watched that video that you recommended, the Alex Rawlins one about is Jimmy and Brock the same player. And it comes down to me. I want the 49ers to win. I like Trey Lance. I was massive on Trey Lance this time last year. Some of my non-49ers friends have kept receipts, Ted. They're doing you proud. I've got a Rams fan and a Bills fan who have clipped some of my shows from last year. They've kept some of my tweets. Now, I stand by those tweets last year. Trey Lance was the man. He was the QB1 in OTAs. He was doing everything we wanted him to do. That first game was a washout. He then got injured. And then, like you said, Jimmy came back in, stunk the place out against Denver, looked better than he's looked. And then when he went down against Miami, I know I'm going around the houses here. I thought the season was over. And from the second Brock Purdy set foot on the field against the Dolphins, he's balled out. Now, I am going to temper my own expectations, Ted, because I was quick to crown Jimmy G. So what I am going to say is at the moment, I like what I've seen from Brock, but personally, as it stands today, I'd like to see Trey given a chance. I just think you look around the league, you look at the standard bearer of QBs, you look at Patrick Mahomes, you look at Justin Herbert, you look at Josh Allen. All Niners fans want one of them. We want a QB with those attributes. Now, that might be a knock on Purdy. And some people might be saying, Mr. Hope, what do you know over in the UK? But at the moment, I would love to see Trey Lance given an opportunity. Brock's not fully fit. We don't know how he's going to recover from that injury. So to answer your question, as long as one of them shows what we need, Ted, because we can't go through another offseason in 12 months' time talking about 49ers QBs. As George Kittle, Club 85, said better than me, his 5th season of talking QBs, Ted. We need to give George a QB he can hang his hat on.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I'm the same way. I believe in Purdy. Just want to see what we got in Lance. I think he deserves a chance. And I want the strongest QB room possible for the playoffs. And I think that means Lance has to play for that to happen. I don't want to see Purdy start, play the whole season, get injured, and then shove Lance in there late in the season or playoffs where he hasn't had much of a chance to improve. I don't think that's our best path to success, but time will tell. As the wise man said, we will see. Um, it's interesting. Beto is a Purdy guy, so he was saying, "What up, Terradome, my fellow Brock Purdy brother." Bebop was saying CMC the GOAT. There's some truth to that. I mean, Jimmy's game really improved when we got CMC, especially not as much in the Chiefs game, but once he started starting games and knew the playbook, Jimmy went 4-0 with CMC. Obviously, Purdy went 6-0 in the regular season and 2-0 in the playoffs until he got injured with CMC. So, yeah, it's interesting the QB wins. You know, they matter. It's important to keep track of. There's a reason to keep track of them, but it's also not like I don't think you crown Purdy over 8-0. And just like Larry Kruger says, you know, we shouldn't, you know, say that Darnold's terrible from being terrible on terrible teams. You know, if you're going to excuse Darnold for QB losses, then, you know, because he's on bad teams, then you can't crown Brock for QB wins when he's got the number one D, the best set of weapons. Kyle, pretty decent O line last year. There's a lot more to winning than the QB. The QB is probably the biggest single piece, but certainly not the only piece. So,
On that video that you sent me, I thought it was quite interesting that Alex Rollins, if I'm saying his name wrong, I apologize. One of the knocks on Brock is Kyle Shanahan's schemes, wide open receivers. And all Brock did was hit wide open receivers. And I did chuckle and I thought, what a great problem in the NFL to have if you've got wide open receivers. And Kyle Shanahan is the key behind it. And I think to go down a different road, Ted, a lot of people got fed up with Jimmy because of the boneheaded plays. You know, he was standing in the pocket. He was always going across the middle. He was getting picked off. And I think 49ers fans gave Jimmy a lot of kind of rope to hang himself. We didn't turn against Jimmy straight away. We all remember him going down against Kansas City and thinking, oh my God, then he came back. But it gets to the eye test. You can look at stats. You can look at game tape. But Brock Purdy came in last year and he managed the offense. He managed the ball well. I mean, some of the stats that Alex guy was pulling out was the 80% completion rate for Brock between 10 to 19 yards, which is
insane.
a record in the NFL. You add in CMC, you add in George Kittle, you add in Debo, you add in the yards after the catch. Now, we all
still insane, though. 80% is still insane. It's incredible.
I mean, even if he drops that by 10% and he only has a 70% completion rate, you're still looking at like the elite category in that section.
Yeah.
And it gets you thinking, do you need that deep ball threat? But then you go back and you look at that pass that traded to Debo against the Texans, which I know a lot of Trey haters hang on to that. It was only the Texans, but it was a glimpse. And I think where we're torn as 49ers fans is Niners Sickness Pod put a comment on there saying, with Super Bowl ready, we need to plug Brock in. And what they're saying is we don't have the growing pains of a rookie QB in Trey, but the potential of Trey, he's got that potential where I think someone said it on one of your shows, if you could put Brock's mentality and attributes into Trey Lance's and mix them up and do the best of both, that would be a dream. But it is going to be interesting. I do fear if Trey Lance doesn't get a fair shot and then he goes somewhere else and he looks half as good as we expected him to, how that's going to go down in Niners Twitter. But no, if you haven't seen that video, that Alex Rollins done, it's quite good. Ted put it on to me. I watched it today in my dinner break at work. And it was quite interesting because stats-wise, there wasn't much difference between Jimmy and Brock. So when you set me that task, Ted, I thought, oh, what am I getting myself into here? I'm going to go viral with a take of either I love Brock or I love Trey.
No. Well, you know, Alex was saying they're the same guy. And when I tweeted it, I didn't say that. I said, you know, they're Purdy and Jimmy are probably closer. Purdy's better, but it's probably closer than a lot of people want to admit, is what I said. Because clearly, even the stats that he flashed, like I screenshotted them and tweeted that as a standalone too. And, Purdy was better on the stats. And obviously Purdy's younger, and obviously Purdy costs a lot less. So there's a lot of reasons why Purdy's at least a little better. And I think he's just straight up, all things equal, a little better, plus younger and cheaper. So that starts to get him towards quite a bit better. But still, some people like to say it's like night and day, and I don't agree with that. Beto said Grant challenged all the content creators to do pull-ups, and my dumbass put on a diaper. My son, we're just trying to get him out of pull-ups. So maybe we'll get him out of pull-ups and me back into some. But we're trying to get him to do the number 2 in the potty. It's a struggle. I had a old coworker of mine tell me when my wife was pregnant, or he was just barely born. She said, "Oh, firstborn boy, you won't get him potty trained until he's 4." And I was like, "You're on your mind." Now he's 3.5 almost, and the struggle is real. So, hats off to my former boss who said that. Bebop says Darnold did it better when Rule got fired. That's true. He went 4-2 after Rule got fired, so that was did a little bit better, and that was without CMC. But I will tell you that they dumbed down the offense for Darnold, and it wasn't exactly like a murderer's row. They did a lot of running. They really protected him to do that. But we could probably win some games with him. I just don't think we can win it all with Darnold. What are your thoughts on Darnold?
Well, I think Taradome may be taking what we're saying out of context. So we're not saying that Brock and Jimmy are the same Taradome. We were quoting some things we've seen up there because I agree they're not the same. You look at the eye test, like you said, Ted, he was a rookie, but he started more games in college. And from the moment Brock came in, you're not going to get me on any show saying Brock didn't ball out last year. He did. You just look at the highlights. You look at some of the plays he made, the pump fake to Kittle against Seattle is one of my favorite plays because it was against Seattle. If Ayuk had held that touchdown when Brock's running around for his life and he comes across the field and he puts it in the back of the end zone, Mahomes does that, or Justin Herbert does that. It's on Good Morning Football on repeat. But I think it shows where we've grown as a fan base that we're not crowning Brock just yet, and we're having that discussion. And like you said, it's the off season. I don't know any other fan base, Ted, that debates their team as well as the 49ers. Like I said, in the UK, I have many friends who support other teams, and they're full on off season. They're not even thinking about the NFL. They don't do any kind of shows. They don't listen to any podcasts. And they're always saying to me, "What can you lads talk about?" And I say, "Well, click the link, have a look. You might learn something." But Sam Darnold's a strange one because obviously Kyle was quite high on Darnold. There was a lot of talk of us trading for him when the Jets were going to let him go. The arm talent is there, according to some people. I'm nervous. I'd like to think Darnold's been brought in as the insurance policy, Ted. He's there as, in case something doesn't go right with Brock's recovery, and we're not in the situation last year where we had to turn the offense over to Josh Johnson. I'm hoping Darnold doesn't see the field unless it's garbage time, unless it's the odd snap here and there. But I'm not going to say he's absolutely rubbish either. He's in the NFL for a reason. He's only, 25, 26? The contract we've given him, it's only a 1-year deal. So for me, Sam's got a lot to prove if he wants to stay in the NFL. I just hope it's not with the Niners, personally. I'm all in on Brock Purdy or Trey Lance as it stands at the moment.
Me too. I hope we don't see Darnold, or, if we do, I hope he, plays a little bit better than what we've seen so far. Silly Fungi here with the obligatory dad joke. Can February, March? No, but April, May. Oh, reminds me of another one, which you've probably all heard, but why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9.
I did like the one he dropped on one of your shows either yesterday or today. I can't remember the gist of it, but I wrote it down because I love a good dad joke. Obviously, 43 this year. My girls are 13 and 16. So all the diaper days, all the potty training's out the way, but I've got new problems, 16-year-old just about to leave high school over here, just finishing her exams, boyfriend, moving on to the next stage of her life. He's not an American football fan yet, Ted, but I'm working on him. And when the season starts in September, he'll be watching a game or two. Be another Niner before we know it.
There you go. You're always recruiting. I got to back up for some Terradome because I don't know. When I saw this, I was like, what? The Terradome get hacked? Lance deserves a chance? Because I've been saying, give Lance a chance. Give Lance a chance. But I was like, did he get hacked? But I think he was just being nice, because then he jumped back in on his usual stuff where he said, why didn't Josh Johnson hit all the wide open receivers? Yeah, Josh Johnson was terrible. Well, the other problem with Josh Johnson is, as bad as he was, he didn't get any first team reps. He wasn't here during the offseason. So, he didn't know the playbook well enough, was part of the problem. And that's the thing. When you talk about having that third receiver, it only does any good if you've practiced with that third receiver, right? I mean, throwing on a third receiver, or not receiver, quarterback. So a third quarterback in cold, they're not going to do much better than Josh Johnson did. They'll have maybe some better physical traits, maybe a little more confidence. But ultimately, with Kyle's system, it's so complex. It's hard to get that rhythm without practicing pretty extensively. And he said, why didn't Jimmy G average 33 points per game if they're the same? And Alex Rollins said they're the same, but we're kind of saying that's a little bit of a troll. But if they're close to the same, why didn't they? And there's some reasons. One, Purdy played some bad and banged up defenses. And another reason is our defense got 2.4 turnovers per. That was in the video, right? I think 2.4 turnovers per game with with Purdy, and 1.2 turnovers a game for Jimmy G. So 1.2 turnovers a game is probably pretty close to 4 points. And then the bad defenses could make up for a little bit more. And also, we had just more time with CMC, more time gelling with, CMC in the offense. It's going to become more efficient. So, but, Purdy is still better. We're not saying they're the same. Just saying, like, closer than a lot of people want to think. That's all.
My take on the video, when you watch it properly, and I'm not saying Tower Dome doesn't watch it properly, he knows more than me. I came away from that convinced Brock was far better than Jimmy. When you look at what that guy's video did, you look at the stats. It's like Tower Dome's in my headset. I've got my notes here. That was the next bit. The 33 points, the 11.6 yards per completion for Brock, the confidence in his ability with Brock Purdy. And Jimmy played scared sometimes, and that's what I said, Tower Dome. The boneheaded plays that Jimmy did, we all got fed up with it towards the end. I mean, our good friend John V from the locker room rant. I was going to troll and come on with the Jimmy jersey just to start with tonight, just to have a bit of fun. But I thought, I can't do that to the fan base, Ted. I'll get blocked by so many people. So
spice it up, Paul. Spice it up.
Well, we've got good. Petty Teddy.
I need to have a Jimmy G stand on here. But then one was begging to come on, and I told him no. 49ers cast wanted to come on, and I was just like, dude, let me see you in a with a guest. I've never seen you with a guest. I'm not just having you on, And then he just went ballistic and psycho tweeted me all night and all morning. I was like, all right, you're never coming on. Never mind. Forget it. Done. Let's make it very clear. This is not happening. Teradome says, why did Kittle have 75% more TDs in 6 games with Jimmy G if they're the same? Well, Kittle had a ton of TDs. I mean, Kittle had more TDs in the 6 games to end the season than he had in any 16-game season in his 5-season career prior to this season. So that's huge. The most ever was 2 seasons of 6 touchdowns each. But Kittle got less yards with Purdy than he got with Jimmy. And I think, some other people probably got a few less TDs too. So it was big for Kittle, and I'm excited to see more of them. But, you don't point to one stat and just say that makes the whole offense, I would say. But it was encouraging. It was great to see. It made me think, like, geez, imagine what Kittle could do with a QB like Purdy, who had a big arm that could hit him deep too. And same thing with Ayuk deep. There were some videos of Ayuk catching passes today, and I said, imagine what they could do with the real QB. And honestly, either of these guys could be it. Like if Purdy can gain a little arm strength, or Lance can, do some of the things that Purdy does a little bit better. Either one of them could be that sort of real QB that I'm talking about, that Ayuk and Kittle deserve to really unlock what they can really do. Beto says, everyone smash the like button, hit the subscribe for me and for Paul and for 49ers Faithful UK too. Make sure you check them out. Oh, is your banner not up? Jeez.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, what Taradome was saying there as well, rookie QBs tend to target the tight ends. And when you've got one of the best tight ends in the league, it made sense for Brock to go to Kittle. And as a big fan of George, president of Club 85 over here in the UK, I love George getting those touchdowns, Ted. So I'm hoping for another big year for our boy George this year, because I'll be rocking my Club 85 t-shirt, that's for sure.
There you go. There you go. So I think I'm a little bit behind here.
The chat is on fire. It's great. I can't even keep up. I'm trying to, when they're all coming on.
Bebop said Brock started more games in college. That's true. Brock started 48 games in college, Lance 17. So that explains why people say, why isn't Lance as ready? He wasn't as experienced and still isn't. That's why I keep saying we need to get Lance experience to see what we got. It's very, very much TBD. Not saying he'll be great, just saying he's got the tools to be great, and we need to find out. Why didn't Jimmy G beat Seattle in Seattle if they're like the same? Jimmy did beat Seattle in 2019. It was when we got the number 1 seed. But the rest of the times he didn't, because he threw interceptions. And there was like a PI one of the more recent times in the end zone, and some Bosa uncalled holdings. And even Elijah Mitchell was on a tackle stack of guys, and Taylor came by and elbowed him in the side of the head and gave him a concussion. Really dirty play. And he was actually out for more than one game too. I think he was out 2 games with that concussion. So those were part of the reasons why we lost in Seattle. But yeah, no, it was good that Purdy won, and we could have won by more in Seattle if Bosa wasn't called for the BS roughing that would have allowed Lenore's pick 6. So yeah, no, there's lots to like, no doubt about it. Why can't Jimmy look off safeties linebackers like Purdy if they're the same? Yeah, Jimmy, because Jimmy is more of a one-read quarterback, but Jimmy is better at that first read. That was in the video. Under 2.5 seconds, Jimmy is better. Over 2.5, Brock's better. Overall, Brock's better, but again, it's not like a clean sweep. It's not like Brock's absolutely better at everything. And Jimmy has a stronger arm, too. Trey Lance, opportunity to play and fail and learn was the 22 season. Unfortunate for him, he got hurt. Now that we saw what Brock Purdy can do, Trey does not have that same luxury anymore. Well, if Purdy's healthy and Purdy's ready, because that's 2 different things. You got to be healthy, and then you got to be mentally ready to connect with your targets and also to take hits and to hold the ball, knowing you're going to take a hit and throw it that last second. And that's sometimes it gets affected by injuries on QBs. Turdom, why didn't Jimmy run and slide for first down?
Taradom's on fire tonight.
Jimmy is definitely not mobile. We're not giving Jimmy a mobility edge, not even in the same ballpark for mobility. But I do say that Brock Purdy is limited in top speed. And people go, quickness is more important. Yes, quickness is more important. Brady didn't run fast. Yes, you don't have to run fast to be a great QB. You don't have to have a big arm to be a great QB. You don't have to be tall to have a great QB. But when you lack all 3, it becomes very difficult to become a great QB. And that's sort of what we're dealing with. It's not just one thing, it's 3 things. He's not bad at any of them, just not top notch. Ted, at your age, by the time you have kids who are done with pull-ups and starting freaking funny I did. Yeah. No, that's true. No, I mean, my next son is due in September. And so he should be out of dive. Let's say it's 4 years, say worst case scenario, 4 years. So that'll be 2027. I think I still got a few good years left before the diapers. Hopefully, knock on wood. We'll see. Sheridan says, and Brock Purdy had the single best incompletion in the last 5 playoffs. One Brandon dropped in the end zone. Well, that's an interesting one too. I mean, I've gotten into some discussions on that where I was saying basically a big arm quarterback doesn't stop to step into that ball and hits Brandon Ayuk before Cody Barton recovers. Now, Cody, I don't think he touched the ball, but if you listen to the replays of it, the announcer said that it was stripped out. In other words, they thought he touched it. And what he did do was get his hand in between the ball and Ayuk's face. And when that happens, if all of the ball or part of the ball is obscured by the hand, then you can't really focus on it until it comes past the hand. And then it's just a split second, and it makes it very difficult to react, to make any last-second adjustments, to actually close your hands in time for the ball, to be caught. So I had some people argue about that, but I mean, basically, Brandon Ayuk was open from the minute he passed the goalpost, and not just like the part that the kicker hits. I'm talking about the part that holds it up in the center to the very corner of the engine to the pylon, the back corner pylon. He was wide open that whole time. So I don't know. I just my thing. You see that throw Mahomes made in the Super Bowl where he's diving sideways and his whole body's parallel to the ground. I mean, I'm not going to say that we need someone with Mahomes' arm strength, but I think with a little bit less arm strength than Mahomes, a little bit more than Purdy, you could make that throw without stopping to set your feet. And that's what happens. Purdy stops to set his feet a lot. You saw it in the Cowboys game, the throw to Kittle. That Kittle made the circus catch on. Purdy had to stop and set his feet. And it worked out. And then there's one of these, that Ayuk video that I said he needs a real QB. One of the passes from Purdy, he's like waiting. The ball comes, he gets it. He gets the touchdown, but different cornerback, different situation. It's probably not a TD. It might be an interception or a PBU. So, again, it's nitpicking a little bit. Purdy is a very good quarterback. We're very lucky to have him. But to say like unequivocally that he's the answer or he's a franchise QB after 8 games, it's I'm just not there yet. And so hopefully I will be. Hopefully he'll convince me. We'll see. Bebop saying 100. Beto saying, Paul, question UK. There's many followers of the other teams as there are Niners.
Yeah, the NFL is huge over here. So obviously myself and Lee Gowland are flying the flag for the 49er Faithful UK. But there's lots of other fans, Ted. A lot of Patriots fans, obviously Tom Brady. A lot of the UK fan base pick their team on whoever was the best. And I said in the comments on your show earlier, guy who lives across the road from me is a Rams fan. 18 months, 2 years ago, he was very vocal. Very rarely see him wearing his Rams gear at the moment, Ted. And he doesn't often stop to talk NFL with me these days. But yeah, Niner Sickness Pod, the NFL is just huge over here. For those people who follow me on social media, I've started playing flag football, which is going over here, and you go away and you travel and you meet other fans, and it's great to see. I think the Niners are one of the better supported teams, hence why the organisation has took the UK marketing rights, and they're working very closely with myself and Lee Gowland. As you saw last year, Ted, we had the epic watch parties, and we've got lots planned for this year. But I'm one of the rare people that I only do NFL. I've said to you before on your show, I don't watch English football. I don't watch the Premier League. I'm all about the NFL. If I'm not doing a show with Ted, I'm watching Ted's show, I'm watching Taradome, I'm watching Breezy. I just love all things 49ers, but I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger on this side of the pond.
There you go. Yeah. The 49ers, there was like a UK, NFL UK did a Kittle versus Kelsey tweet. And Kittle did really well, which is unusual, but it's just because there's so many Kittle UK fans. And then during that, I got in an argument with the Rams fan, and we were going on and on and on about who's better, whatever. And like, I gave context of like, look, Kelsey's had Alex Smith and Mahomes, 4 years of Alex Smith and 5 years of Mahomes, while, Kittle's had, like we said, Hoyer, Beathard, Mullins, Jimmy G, a little bit of Lance, a little bit of Purdy, but, behind an offensive line that doesn't pass block very well. But most importantly, Kelsey's been in the most pass-happy scheme in the league. They throw more than any other team per year. And the Niners usually run more than any other team per year, or at least in like that top 3 to 5 every year. We're one of the highest run percentage teams in the NFL. So all those things add up, that's some context. And then they're like, oh, well, you're just making excuses. So I said, okay, here's the graphic of Kittle and Kelsey. They have basically identical stats in their first 6 seasons, because Kelsey's 4 seasons ahead of Kittle, for people who don't know that. He's played 4 more seasons. So Kittle has 4 years to catch up to what Kelsey's done. And then he's like, oh, well, Kelsey was out his first year injured. I'm like, but you were just saying Kittle was injured. Like, this, anyway. And then he said, the thing that got me, he says, the Rams fan says, oh, well, Kittle's a decent blocker and average and good yak or something like that. I'm like, dude, he's like the best blocking tight end and the best yak tight end and maybe one of the best yak players in general. And then if I'm like, you lost credibility, I ended up having to block him eventually. I was like, go away, go away, go away. He wouldn't. Like, all right, eat the block. See ya. But most Rams fans are not like that, so we'll give them, especially the ones here on the channel. They do good stuff.
Yeah.
Pterodome saying 3 playoff team defenses were bad, not to mention, yeah, Pterodome, not only were the Seattle Seahawks bad, they were the 25th ranked defense. Not only that, but we played them twice. We played them in Seattle, and we played them in the wild card game. Yeah, and the Cards D was ravaged by the time we played them at the end of the season. They were down to basically like J.J. Watt and their safety not named Budda Baker. And like those were the only 2 starters on their entire defense. Oh, I think Simmons was in, but he got injured or something.
I think he got injured, yeah.
Yeah. So, by the second half or sooner, it was J.J. Watt and one average-ish safety. So, and there's more. What else? Let's just start. The Dolphins had the 20th ranked pass defense. The Bucks had a good defense, but they were missing everybody. Vita Vea, Murphy Bunting, both starting safeties. Seattle, we know. Cards, we know. The Commanders had a good defense, but they were missing Cam Curl, who was their second leading tackler. And the thing with them was it was like we got the ball 4 times inside their 35-yard line, and that's super unusual. There was an interception, but 2 of them were coaching blunders. There was Ron Rivera went for it on 4th down inside their 35, and they did an onside kick when there was still time to kick it away and trust their defense. If your D's that good, you're going to trust it, and not go for an onside kick that has like a 5% chance of being recovered or less these days. And I know there's one I'm forgetting, but anyway, there were some bad and banged up defenses, like I said. So what else? Who has a better stance? Tracer in 23. Fat Boys being able to do a superstar model. Oh man. There's not much hope for us, Beto, so I'd say Lance has a better chance. Fax TV. I must be missing. I'm probably pretty far behind here, so let's try and catch up. Jimmy says, "What's up, Ted and Sterling?" No, this isn't Sterling. This is Paul.
Paul catches up later on. He puts another message in. I did smirk. He put
okay. Paul and Ted. There we go. I did have Sterling Bennett on Monday. He's great. In my promo thing, I said, forget gold. Niner fans, I think would rather have Sterling now. So, because he's great, and he did great coverage of the OTAs and mini camps. I thought it was really fair and balanced and thorough. That's all you can ask. Brock Purdy could only play defenses that were on the schedule. He won 2 playoff games. Rookie quarterback Prescott won. Only been able. Prescott has won 1, but has only been able to win 1. I'll change it for you. But I think Dak has 1 and 3 in the playoffs. He hasn't won 1 against us in the last 2 years. That's for sure. Yeah, you can only play who's in front of you. That's true. Oh, the Raiders was the other bad defense. Yeah. So yeah, the Raiders, no bueno. But Brock did a good job in that game because our defense didn't play well in that game, and he scored 37 points, or his offense did. So that's really good. Although it did take overtime. It was, I guess, 34 in regulation, but still that's really good. So, I'll give him credit. I'll be honest. I'm not going to ever rely on him and say something that's not true. The one thing I would say about the Raiders game is it really highlighted his, not so strong arm in a couple of plays. And you guys have probably seen me tweet this, but basically there was a throw to Kittle that should have been a TD and a throw to Jennings that should have been a TD. And the one to Kittle got intercepted, and the one to Jennings was maybe a drop TD, or at the very least it was a pass breakup. And so it just highlighted, he was like rolling left and tried to throw back right. and it was too much for him to overcome. And it takes a lot of arm strength to do that. I'm not saying that a lot of QBs can do that, but I think a strong armed QB could. And so that was where it highlighted some for me. Collie saying, Paul, UK legend in the building. Welcome, Collie. Good to see you. Thanks for all your support, buddy. I appreciate it so much. He's so supportive, even when he's jabbing me sometimes, calling me super petty Teddy. But I think it was because I was arguing with 49ers Cast last night. I think he needs to change his name to Raiders Cast now that Jimmy's a Raider. Jimmy Perez. I mean, what's up, Paul and Ted? What's up, Jimmy? So he got it right there. They're just saying hi. Turdum says, how did Brandon Ayuk yards for reception went up with Brock Purdy? 60 and 14.9. He finally became a 1,000-yard receiver. Fun fact. Very true. Very true. I think to really unlock what Brandon Ayuk can do, we'll need more arm strength. So hopefully, through this rehab, maybe Purdy can increase his arm strength. It has happened with those Tommy John surgeries, but I do think that that's typically more from where it's like a repetitive stress injury. Your arm weakens, and then you replace the UCL, and then it goes. It looks like it's strengthening, but it's kind of just going back to where it was before. And the UCL in the pitch, your arm's way out to the side, and so you're whipping it, and the UCL is actually involved in the power of the pitch, whereas in a football throw, it's just to keep the arm going in the right direction, and not much stress goes through. That's why you never see the repetitive stress injury for quarterbacks. It's only the traumatic kind, like Mullins and Purdy had. But that's all true, Pterodome. All facts. So fair. What's up, Beto? Let's see if we can. There's Brock Purdy listed as 6'1", 220. Jalen Hurts 6'1", 223. Why small? The other is a $240 million franchise guy. Well, I mean, for starters, have you seen that Eagles offensive line? I mean, they have the best O-line in football, so that helps. Also, have you seen that Jalen Hurts, he squats like 600 pounds? So I don't care what the weight is. Like, the guy is yoked. I know Brock Purdy has big thighs because they called him Baby Bosa when he reported to camp. But I don't know that Brock Purdy's is a real measurement. I guess I would say that. If this is what the measurements say, I would say either Hurts is bigger, or even Hurts is more like 5'11" and 223, and Purdy is more like 6'1" and 210. Because I don't know. I heard Grant Cohn say that he stood next to Purdy and he's tiny, and so sometimes those measurements aren't exact. I'll just say that. I wouldn't put too much stock into there. Sometimes they heighten people. Sometimes they make them sound more or less. Sometimes if they're big and fat, they put them at a lower weight. I've seen that before. I'm not saying necessarily that's 100% true, but that could be. Brock Purdy did the same throw in college. Check YouTube. Which throw are we talking about?
The Mahomes sidearm one. He's talking about. To be fair, Taradome, I knew that because my good friend Ashley Lewis, who's the Team GB flag quarterback, went to the same college as Brock Purdy at the same time. He's a massive fan of Brock because obviously he's a fan of that college. And this time last year, he came on a show with me as a Patriots fan, and he was saying, "Don't sleep on Brock Purdy. You've got yourself a great QB." El Presidente, Lee Gowland, during our season preview show last year, Ted called for Brock Purdy to have an impact at the end of the season. I'm not sure how Mr. Gowland foresaw that, but he's never let us forget that he called it early doors. So I think Taradome is on fire tonight with the comments. But yeah, if you Google it, the sidearm throw, I think Brock Purdy did one of those in college, which I've seen the comparison to Mahomes.
And I beat Purdy up for not being able to make off-platform throws, and that's definitely an off-platform throw. And when I say that, I don't mean he can't do it. It's just like he can't do it long, deep, or like with a lot of zip on the ball. Even on platform, he can't put a ton of zip on the ball. So, like, I'd be curious to know what the depth of target was in college for Purdy versus the one for Mahomes. That would be an interesting comparison to see. But that's good to know. I know I've seen Purdy make a few off, different arm angle throws for sure. And definitely I've seen him make some under duress. The one against the most notable was probably the first game he played against the Dolphins, where he had the unblocked defensive end in his face, and he stayed in and hit Kittle, and it was a big gainer. He made them pay for blitzing for sure. If you can only make one read, at least you got to be good at it, Jimmy. Yeah, that's true. It's more difficult to go through progressions and come back to your first read and then come back to it and still complete it. Yes. Yeah. I agree. Do you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah, I saw that comment when it flashed up. I would agree, and I think that was the knock, like you said earlier when you watched that tape that Alex Rollins done. The positive for Jimmy was he gets the ball out quick, and if it's his first read, it's the problem with Jimmy is when defenses took that away from him. He had to go through his progressions, and like you said, Brock Purdy was more mobile when the play broke down, where Jimmy just used to stand in the pocket and get hit or throw an interception. So yeah, I agree with what Niners Sickness Pod has said there.
And then Betta says, since you like to save receipts, go ahead and save this one. I'm making a bold prediction. Brock Purdy will start week 1. I mean, if he's healthy, it's not that bold. But will he be healthy? I don't know. I had Dr. Pondy on. He said week 3 would be the soonest that he would see Purdy start. But, that's not Purdy's doctor. So I ever since the surgery, have been saying, week 5, go on IR for 4 weeks and come back week 5, or PUP for 6 weeks and come back week 7. I think that's out the window. So, but I'll still go with week 5 for Purdy being like ready to come back and play.
Yeah. It's a difficult one. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to Brock Purdy. I've shared this with you before. When I ruptured my Achilles last January at the age of 42, they told me it'd be a year before I'd be back doing any sport, back running. And then August, they were pretty much like, yeah, you're good to go. So by September, I was back. So I got back. I attacked my rehab. I did everything that I said. And when we first spoke in January, Ted, about Brock Purdy, we weren't sure where he was going to be. And you look at now where the reports are he's actually throwing. And the fact that we're sat here now in June thinking he could be back for week 1. And you've just said that's not a bold prediction. But if you went back 2 months ago, that would have been a massive bold prediction that Purdy was going to be ready for week 1. And we're joined by Neil Graham, fellow 49er Faithful UK. He's also been on TED Talks Ball. So thanks for joining tonight, Neil.
Great guest. Alex Simpson, too. Nick, Lee, making the rounds. I'll get there eventually. Work on Najee, but he's a little tougher.
Najee's a busy man. He's hard enough to get on the 49er Faithful UK. He's still never been on there. Let's Talk Sports with me. I keep promising Dan, same as you, that I'm going to get all these guys on. But it's difficult with the schedule and sometimes. And Najee plays American football. He's a contact player for the Chester Romans over here. So at the moment, he's full on season mode. So like I said, I haven't seen Najee for a couple of weeks.
There you go. We'll either do it or we'll die trying, right? The only thing that Jimmy G is better than Brock Purdy is getting prettier women to go out with him. I don't know. I haven't seen who Purdy gets. But, we got Jimmy with the porn stars, and we got Lance with the strippers. So maybe Brock's just, more wholesome type girls. I don't know. Who knows? Can't get much less wholesome.
No, but sure. I will say my better half did tend to enjoy the games when Jimmy was playing. I'm not quite sure why, but
it's the chin line. Well, can't really see that with the helmet on, so maybe it's something more visible. I don't know. Silly Funky, go Rams. I'm optimistic about this season. Yeah, I'm optimistic that you guys will get a high pick too. But no, good banter. Feel free, Silly. The RSR goes crazy in here. Like I said, you're outnumbered, but I think people kind of mirror your energy. If you have good fun banter, I think you'll get it back. I think if you go for the throat, then we will too. Terradome says Washington and Vegas.
I think there were the defenses that you were struggling with earlier, and then you've caught.
Yeah. I mean, the Commanders had a good D, and they got Chase Young back against us too. But he was on a pitch count, and he wasn't super impactful. But the Vegas D's were not that good. Not good at all. That was probably poor Derek Carr's downfall there, and that's what I was worried about for old Jimmy. going there is, he doesn't play D for all the people that thought he was going to turn it around single-handedly. Silly funky, just make sure the lines don't bleed with each other about being optimistic and delusional. Fair, yeah. Although, I think I mentioned it, but I had a couple of draft experts on post-draft. Alex Barber and John, blanking on his name. He's a Philly Eagles fan. And they were both saying they felt like the Rams did a really good job in the draft. And not just like guys to like tank with to get a high pick next year, but like guys to make life tougher on the Seahawks and the Niners. They still thought that we were the class of the division. Well, some thought Seahawks, but our two teams were the class of the division. But the Rams maybe wouldn't make the playoffs, but might make it harder on one of our teams to make it or something like that. So the Dolphins, the ones who cracked Jimmy G's ankle. Okay. Yeah, it was kind of a fluke play, though. The guy just put his knee into Jimmy's foot. And it's kind of a blown block, and I guess Debo didn't look back as an outlet to give Jimmy the quick outlet. And then Jimmy should have probably just taken the sack instead of trying to run forward. We all know he doesn't have any mobility. It's not like he's going anywhere. So Miami blitzed 40% of the time versus Brock. He hit it. He stared it down. He hit the open receiver, bailed and pirouetted and make plays. Wilkins, Ingram, Phillips, Chubb, we're good. Christian Wilkins is good. Ingram, I think he's getting pretty old, right? Brandon Ingram? Like Melvin Ingram? Is that the D end? Phillips is a good young defensive end, and Chubb was the one from Denver. Yeah, those are good. It's a good D line. I think they were missing a corner or safety too that day. So
I do think what Brock did well from the Miami game when he first got thrust into action, he did what most rookie QBs do and try and use his athletic skills. And there was a couple of times he came out of the pocket and the two defensive ends were right in his face, and you think, oh, please don't hit him after Jimmy had gone down. Yeah. And I said at the time on the 49er Faithful UK, he needs to trust moving up into the pocket. And then the week after against the Bucs, for me, Brock showed that he went through the pocket rather than escaping and running around. So that showed good awareness for me. But I think Taradome needs to tell us how he's feeling. I'm not sure whether he's a Brock Purdy man or a Traylon. And I'm only joking, Taradome.
That's how you run, Phil. Don't hold back, T-Dome. Come on, Hugh. Tell us. It said at Ted Talks Ball, the great equivocator. Oh, I don't know about that. I have takes. I have stands. But, some of the things are TBD. It's hard to say. And I don't want to, like, piss people off by, saying that Purdy can't do something or whatever. I mean, there's every reason to believe his arm could get stronger from rehabbing, especially the longer he rehabs. I think that's all the more reason to let him stay out longer and try and strengthen that arm. You have Purdy with a stronger arm and Lance with more experience going into the playoffs. I think that's a win-win to me, but that's just me. You just said a big arm isn't everything. It's not everything. It's something. It's nice to have a big arm. It's nice to be tall. It's nice to have top speed. But I do admit that Brock's quickness to me is more important than top speed. It's just I would love quickness and top speed. You know what I mean? It's just like if I'm making my cake, I want all the ingredients in it if I can. My franchise QB cake, if we're calling it that, and then I'll eat it too. Would y'all rather have Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, or Brock Purdy? You first.
Well, I'm just impressed that Taradome's been watching the 49er Faithful UK live, because that is a would you rather that Nick Ludlam would have been proud of. So I'm smirking when I saw that. Obviously, Taradome, I'd rather have Brock Purdy. That said,
take him out then, because me too. So then Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins?
I would go with Kirk Cousins if it's between Prescott and Cousins. There's a Netflix documentary. I don't know whether it's airing on your side of the pond, but it's been advertised over here. The quarterback, followed Mahomes, Mariota for some reason, and Kirk Cousins. So that's due to start in a couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to watching that. But if you took Purdy, which we obviously would, leaving the other two, it would be Kirk Cousins for me. Even though he can't win in prime time, he's still better than Prescott.
He says, "Oh yeah, Grant Cohn is telling the truth always." I think Grant does a pretty good job of telling the truth. It's just he's just not a fan. He just he's maybe even takes it a little far to even almost be like a hater. He definitely has a little animosity towards Kyle, and a little he's a little rough on Purdy. I'll admit that. I mean, I am too. I think that's fair. We got 187 in the house. Same BP dog, Brock Purdy. He's got it. Even got it as his avatar. So we won't ask who your favorite QB is, but that's the And again, just in case anybody wonders, like I really like Purdy. It's just I like the idea of Lance a little more. I mean, if Lance starts and lays an egg this season, then that'll probably be it for him, for me at least. So we'll see for everybody else. Ted's like an encyclopedia, answer for everything, usually dismissive. It's cool though. I got more questions. I'm sorry. I hope you didn't think I was dismissing you. I just I have my sort of set thoughts, and but like I said, I admitted or congratulated you when you were correct. So TED Talks, yeah, but well, let's let Paul talk some here. Yeah, but Brock Purdy, 10-yard split, measure of quickness, 1.55. Jalen Hurts, 1.60. Yeah, but again, like, show me Brock Purdy's longest run. He'll juke him for a step or two, but then as soon as he takes off running, someone's tracking him down from behind. Whereas Jalen Hurts, he'll tear up a whole defense if you let him. So, and that's the difference. There was that meme that came out last year before the NFC Championship game, comparing the last 7 games of Jalen Hurts to the last 7 games of Purdy, and they were pretty identical as far as like completion percentage and touchdowns, interceptions, and I mean all the throwing stats were nearly identical. And I think that's where Larry Krueger got that, like, Brock Purdy's the same as Jalen Hurts, but if you ignore the running part, you're ignoring a big key to. And it's not just the stats; it's not just the yards that Hurts runs. It's the conflict that he puts players in. If you watch the tape of the NFC Championship game, and poor Fred Warner got stuck, and he couldn't go after Hurts, and he couldn't go after the running back, and they just gashed us again and again with it because Fred Warner, was spying Hurts. And that's what you have to do with a running threat. You have to spy them. Then if the running threat can throw deep too, then you have to keep a safety back too. So all of a sudden you got 2 defenders that aren't guarding your targets. They're guarding your quarterback and they're guarding empty space deep. So yeah, that's why to me, top speed and big arm are important. Even if you don't use them that often, just the threat of them.
Yeah.
It keeps defenses honest. All right, then let's make a bigger, bold prediction. The Niners will win the Super Bowl in 2023 with Brock Purdy under center. Love it. Yeah, if we win number 6, I don't really care if it's Purdy or Lance. But I was saying to Beto yesterday, what if it's 1 this year with Purdy or 2 in the next 3 or 4 years with Lance? Then how do you feel, What would you rather? And he said he'd rather have Lance and the more, of course. And he obviously can't guarantee that or anything, but it's just one of those interesting questions. Yeah, that is bold, no doubt about it, Beto. I like it. Rank the best QB, and I think saying that Purdy starts week 1 is still a little bit bold. I think that's a good bold prediction, just because, like we said, he'll probably be physically ready, but will he be synced up, and will he be ready to take hits? That's the big part too. Like, will he stand in the pocket? Will he play the same? I don't know. Pterodome, yeah, but
And he's dropped another one there about Trey Lance going to do better in his rookie year.
If Trey Lance is going to do better than his rookie year, all it hurts. Then how good can Brock get? Yeah, it's just I just think Brock is pretty close to his ceiling already. I think he can get better synced up with our weapons, and I think he can get a little bit better at not bailing out back and left out of the pocket. But unless he increases his arm strength, there's not a ton more that he can do, in my opinion. So, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he'll be the next Breeze. Maybe he'll be the next Russ. I don't know. But keep in mind, when you say Breeze and you say Russ, they only won one ring each. And Russ had historic Legion of Boom defense when he did it. He had prime beast mode. And Breeze, you could say that he only won because Hank Baskett botched the onside kick recovery. This is before your time, Paul, but it was Peyton Manning against Drew Brees in the Super Bowl, and it was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all first half. And so coming out in the second half, New Orleans was supposed to kick the ball away, and instead they did an onside kick. And Hank Baskett, who's kind of famous because he dated one of the Playboy girls, Kendra, botched the onside kick recovery. New Orleans got the ball. They got one extra possession, basically won the game by one possession because no one could stop Manning and no one could stop Breeze. So, and then with Russ, he had that great help, and then but neither of them won a Super Bowl once they got paid. Yeah. So here are these great QBs, and they never won once they got paid. So
I did know about that Saints one because when I fully started in the NFL, I went back and watched like loads of old games, and I'd seen an article about the fact that they'd gone for the onside kick to start the second half, and it was quite ballsy. And so, but Taradome, it's 10:10 in the evening, Taradome in the UK. So I haven't got much longer left, buddy, because my two kids have got to go to school tomorrow. So next time I'll come on an hour early because I tried to go a little bit later for Ted today because funny fact before we shoot off, Ted. So at the moment, my two and the missus downstairs are watching a reality TV show over in the UK, which is some rubbish that I will not watch. So at the moment, between 9 and 10 in the UK, I have a free hour every night while they've got the TV. So I was like, right, I'll push my time back a little bit because I normally do 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. And this is quite late for me in the UK with it being a work week. So I'm sorry, Taradome. I haven't got another hour. I wish I did because some of the comments have been great tonight and it's been good to have the chat on fire.
Really good. Amazing. Yeah, we had a whole bunch of stuff that we were going to go through, and I think we hit on some of it anyway. It tends to come up, even if you don't bring it up. A lot of the same things pop up. But yeah, let me let you get rolling so you can be with your fam and get a good night's sleep for work. Family first, real life first, work first. Those are all important priorities. And I'll just say, Paul, thanks for coming on. It's been a real pleasure. Everybody make sure you follow at Paul_Hope10 on Twitter, at 49er Faithful UK on the YouTube. And just say thanks to everybody in the audience. You guys were great as always. And we'll say peace and go Niners.
Go Niners.